Hello everyone and welcome! Going through my list of ideas for videos, I stumbled upon an idea simply called Facts You Didn't Know About League. Now this is nothing new. There are probably hundreds of videos talking about variety of different facts regarding League of Legends. So I took a different approach. Given my wide lore knowledge and my long history with the game, I decided to tell you about things you can hardly find anywhere else. I will avoid all the generic topics you have heard many times before, and if I talk about some of them, I will tell you something extra about them. So my goal today will be to show you at least one thing you have not heard about before. As it is a tradition with these kinds of videos, if you really knew all 10 facts you are going to hear, you are free to give this video a dislike. But if not, let me know any other way. So with these rules, let's get started. There is a lot of trivia hidden behind Orianna. Her voice resembles GLaDOS from Portal.
This is a fine game.
Her ball is a reference to Companion Cube from the same game. But there is one thing you probably didn't know about. Did you know that the winding key stuck in her back serves no purpose? In fact, it shouldn't even be there anymore. This is weird because even in one of her idle animations she is winding it, as if it did anything. The TLDR version of this story is that long time ago, Orianna was a normal girl from Zone. She worked with her father in their shop building mechanical body parts to help other people. One day there was an accident in Zone and toxic clouds spilled into the streets around. Without telling her father, Orianna built some gas masks and snuck away from her home to help those in need. Unfortunately, she didn't have enough masks and she ended up sacrificing her own to save a child. As the poison slowly corrupted her body, her father had to operate on his own daughter, and he had to slowly replace each failing organ with a mechanical version of it. Her lungs originally had to be wound up with a key every 2 days or so. But as time went on, eventually they had to replace her heart as well. They replaced it with a hex crystal, which was so powerful it sustained her body on its own. So no key or winding up was ever required since. This is even shown in the art used for the story which followed these events. In the story about Firem, you can see Orianna no longer has the key in her back. So it seems like the in-game model really is outdated. The full video version of her story will be linked in the description. Next up we have the Howling Abyss. A place which we know a lot about, yet not enough to really know what was happening there. Most of the story is told through the quotes of the 2 shopkeepers found here. But did you know that if you win a game of ARAM and wait for 10 seconds, Lissandra will tell you the full story of this place and what really happened?
The Howling Abyss, a bottomless crevasse surrounded by an ancient fortress carved into a glacier. No one remembers who built this place. No one knows its purpose. No one but me. Long before Ash and Sejuani, before magic shattered the broken peaks.
Some of you may remember the glorious days of the new game mode Riot released. The one that was, what were the words? Fast and fun?
Dominion's pretty fun. It's fast, it's fun.
Awesome, Dominion. It's fast, it's fun.
Yes, of course I mean Dominion, or the Crystal Scar, also known as the city Kalamanda, which now moved to northern Churima. But despite how unpopular the game mode was, did you know that there was a weekly tournament called Dominate Dominion, where people focused purely on being the best at Dominion? This tournament was fully supported by Riot, meaning you could win RP or even Triumphant Rise, which Riot still owes me. The very last game of this tournament was absolutely glorious and I highly recommend watching it, just so you know how different the gameplay of League of Legends could be. The next one is somewhat known, but people may not know the full story. Did you know that only one skin was ever taken off the store after it officially launched? That skin being Rusted Blitzcrank. A lot of people think that this skin was just a rare limited skin, just like Championship Riven or any other rare one at the time. But Rusted Blitzcrank was actually just a normal skin. The reason why it was removed was because it was so ugly Riot considered it a failure. Ironically, it was taken down a week before I decided to buy the skin, so I never managed to get it. I never thought it was ugly because I always liked those oddly different skins. But the community didn't like the fact that they should pay real money for a slightly vomity shade of yellow. So Riot eventually decided this skin is not up to par with their skills, so they took it down. And released skins like Black Belt Udyr? I like that one too, but why isn't replacing black with brown a problem? With the launch of the universe, we got a lot of story assets to work with. Recently we have used the new Targon logo for a theory. But did you know that the Shadow Isles crest also has its background? It was inspired by the story of the Ruined King, whose full story will be also in the description. The TLDR version is that once upon a time there was a king who had sick wife. The king sent Callista to travel out and find a cure, but when Callista returned, the queen was dead. On her travels, Callista found the Blessed Isles where monks were able to heal pretty much everything. So the king traveled there with the dead queen, but the monks told him that they don't resurrect dead because it is against nature. So the king went mad, ordered Hecarim, his personal guard, to kill a few of them before forcing the rest to resurrect her anyway. So they brought her back to life, turning her into a horrifying zombie. Now, if the king wasn't mad before, now he definitely was. So he cast a spell that bound their souls together forever and ended everything. This is how the Shadow Isles were created. Now the crest of these lands is inspired by the queen, who was pretty much the cause of all these events. I think most of you will agree that Tahm Kench had an amazing launch. His teaser was great, the music was great, his visuals are simply amazing. But in the Q&A, where Riot answered some questions about Tahm Kench, we got to learn about his history as well. Specifically, his clothing. It is very easily overlooked, but did you know that Tahm Kench wears two coats at once? All the clothes he's wearing came from his victims, but because human size doesn't really fit him, he had to stitch together two coats to get his size. That's why if you zoom in, you can see that one side is black while the other is brown. If you are asking why is he wearing it in the first place, well, let's just say that his victims feel more comfortable next to a demon wearing human clothes, rather than standing next to a naked bulk of a demon. Also, did you know that his head alone was sculpted with so much care that they used exactly 500 polygons? Certain old champions don't even have that many. This next one I feel very confident majority of players missed, partially because Riot hid it really well. Back when Diana was released, she had her first skin, Valkyrie Diana. Many of you may not know that the original model for this skin was different. Originally, the skin had a crown, purple hair and darker skin, but it was later changed seemingly for no reason. When the community asked why did they change the skin, Riot responded that it was because she looked too similar to Syndra, which I guess was true, but would removing the crown really fix that issue? Something's not quite right. Surely if she looked too much like Syndra, they would change the color scheme entirely, or would fix her shoulders or anything in that regard. Changing her face did nothing. After all, her face is the one thing you won't notice in a fight. In one of our previous videos, we talked about how careful Riot is with outlining the champions, so that even if they look similar, you can always tell them apart based on their standing and animations. Surely a small detail on the model wouldn't be an issue. In reality, Riot was hiding the fact that the original model of that skin was very dangerously copying the classic image of a night elf. The half-naked purple armor, the feathery shoulders, it had it all. Normally this wouldn't be an issue, and I believe Blizzard would be fine with it. But that skin was so close that if you slapped a WoW logo on that skin, I would believe it was a Warcraft concept art. So in the end, Riot removed that iron crown, typical for Night Elf warriors. They changed her hair from purple to blue, which was a classic Night Elf color, and they made her skin tone more human-like. On top of that, they slapped the moon icon on her forehead to really make her different. Riot may say this change was to prevent champions from looking alike, But looking at Karthus and Gravekeeper Azir, it doesn't add up. Deep in my heart, I will remember Valkyrie Diana as the almost copyrighted skin. This next fact doesn't really fit into the current story, but it will most likely never change. In the old ninja story, Kennen, Shen and Akali were one team working together to bring balance into all world. Even though Shen was their leader, they worked as a single strike team. Balance was even part of their own team. They had the logical Shen, the calm Kennen, and the hot-headed Akali. Only when working together would their personalities reach perfect balance. But that's not all. Did you know that their gameplay also fits this balance wheel? Shen's tankiness counters Akali's burst damage, Akali's burst damage counters Kennen's range, and Kennen's range counters Shen's tankiness. Their triangle counters each other perfectly, bringing them into equilibrium. The players may argue who is the most unbalanced champion ever. You would surely hear about Riven, Yasuo and Fizz. But did you know that Riot's game designers actually called out the worst champion to balance ever? I believed it was Ezreal, the lead designer of Vladimir, who said that Vladimir would probably never be balanced. A champion without resources who has massive heals, low cooldowns, AoE clears, free defenses, free power and brilliant escape would always be a nightmare to balance. And for the most part it was. Up until he got his gameplay rework, Vladimir was always far too strong or far too weak. Either his late game was unbeatable, or he was a mage without crown control, or any damage actually. Many questioned why Vladimir even had to be reworked, because many had no idea how painful it was for Riot to deal with him. The last fact on this list is actually quite known. In this single case I actually don't really care. Many of you may remember the original voice of Nasus, a voice adored by many because it was simply perfect for Nasus. The voice of Gene McDaniels. Sadly, the reason why Riot had to swap the voiceover for Nasus was because Gene died peacefully on July 29, 2011. Because Riot knew they would have to work with the voice in the future, there was no other way. So even though the majority of League community preferred the old voice, there simply isn't a way of getting it back.
Anthropomancy, divination by entrails. There, for grace, I go.
And that was my 10 facts you didn't know about League of Legends. I really focused on getting through facts you didn't hear in any other video, so I want you to be 100% honest. Please tell me which facts you didn't know about. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, you can always leave a like below or subscribe if you are into lore. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Discord if you'd like to chat. There are amazing people there, I just can't praise my Discord enough. I also just created an Instagram account. I am not entirely sure why, but you can expect a lot of IRL pictures there. Majority being coffee. So again, thank you so much for being here and for your feedback, you know I really appreciate it. And as always, thank you, come again.